No pendulum goes too far in one direction, it swings back. The ancient Greeks said moderation in all things, hitting a balance. You've had too many funny speeches. You've heard too many things that are cheerful and uplifting, and I'm here. I hope not to depress you. I hope not to scare the daylights out of you, but to bring you back into the real world. That's my job. You've levitated too much. Now, I didn't realize that I should have had visuals. So these charts, these numbers should have been on a chart so you could really think about them and worry. So I'm going to refer to notes. My topic is, which is going to have a painful impact on the lives of all of you, it's denial in American life and the loss of meaningful exchanges to challenge those denials. And the ramifications are, I leave to you. I think you're going to find some of them thought-provoking. Now, some of these denials are silly. I mean, they almost make you laugh. You may be aware of the fact that, for example, at the time George W. Bush left office, 35% of registered Democrats truly believed that he had had advance notice of the attack on the World Trade Center. That seems insane. The Rasmussen polls show 35% of registered Democrats believe that. That's silly. But it was never discussed, never challenged. Today, polls show that between 31% and 46% of Republicans truly believe that Barack Obama is a Muslim. Now, that's sad, and that's silly, but that's what the numbers show. Other things seem silly. We have people who have blind faith in the United Nations. Although this week, North Korea has become chairman of the UN Commission on Disarmament. North Korea with its nuclear bomb raising and threatening, this seems like a joke. They're also active in human rights. I mean, this is, and you have people, these are undiscussed questions. Now, to psychiatrists and psychologists, denial is the refusal to accept unpleasant facts. And American life is awash with denial. And the sad thing is not that odd people believe odd things. They are not discussed. They are not openly faced. They are not challenged. Now, some of these denials seem self-evident. Christ almighty, you'll look at them and they are what they are. Others are curious because you'd think that sensible people would face them. Others are self-destructive. And once again, you wonder why people don't face a self-destructive fact of life. Now, I'm going to give you one of each because time is relatively short. I'm going to give you one of each. I wish there were time to discuss them. The first example of self-evident denial is the current state of the American economy. Now, 1/2 of our Congress refuses to entertain any increase in income, which is called taxes. The other half of our Congress refuses to entertain any serious diminution in expenditures, which are called entitlements. But both understand fully the impact of the deficits that are facing us right in the eye, and that these impending deficits spell catastrophe. Now, let me just give you, not the quibbles. Think of these macro numbers. the 40-year average for the last 40 years before, let's say, 2005. The average for 40 years debt to GNP ratio has been 37%. That's been the standard. Today, it's over twice that and rising. Our debts are far out of the scale of past proportions. Interest payments historically on that debt have averaged 5.7%. That's the historic cost of our debt. Today they're playing games. It's artificially low. It's 2.5%. Our debt is rising. Eventually, when the Fed can't keep buying the debt, the interest rates are going to go up. And in time, unless we reverse, they will strangle our economy. You're owing more, you're borrowing more and more and more. The debt service, the interest is going to go up. And this is a reality that is going undiscussed, unchallenged. Nobody seems to face the fact. My wife says, briefer. We see what's happening to Greece. There's no one here who doesn't know what's happening to Greece, and we are heading in the same direction. There is no talk today of prudent compromises. A little of this and a little of that. I'll give you this, you take that. There's no talk of any prudent compromise. And Washington, I wrote this when I was feeling, our public is watching this the way a frog is mesmerized by a snake getting ready to eat him. The frog just is paralyzed while the snake comes. The American public is mesmerized by these discussions. Now, this week, the International Monetary Fund's annual report discusses the profound shock to the whole global financial structure if the United States, which is the protector of the world's reserve currency. The dollar is the world's reserve currency. We are told that on August 2nd, we're running out of cash, and there seems to be, as you read the paper as I do, zero sense of urgency about what to do on August 2nd. Moody's Investor Services this week said they, very calmly, they see the downgrading of U.S. debt from its present AAA rating to AA. AAA means the Virgin Mary or God or whatever promises to pay. AA means a good guy, you know, he's solvent, there's a difference in credibility. If that goes down, interest rates go up. If those rates go, the ones on Freddie Mac and Fannie Mae and all the others are going. And they, with unpredictable consequences, and everyone says it's imminent. Now, meanwhile, I've written back at the ranch, that prominent economic savant, Michelle Bachmann, announced this week that she dismisses such talk as, quote, scare tactics. Michelle Bachmann's advisor said this week that if our debt ceiling of $14.3 trillion, even if you say it quickly, that's a lot of money. That's what we owe, $14.3 trillion. She says, we can easily pay the monthly charges of $18 billion by, quote, greatly scaling back other functions, quote. That's what Michelle Bachmann, right now the leading candidate, is. Oh, it's all right. Of course you have to pay your interest. You'll just dramatically scale back. What that will do both to basic peace, domestic peace, and financial confidence in our bonds. Quickly, that's the short term. For the longer term, the International Monetary Fund this month forecasts U.S. economic growth to be below 3% per annum until 2016. That means for the next 5 years, there's not going to be any substantial growth. Laura Tyson, this week, the former chair of Bill Clinton's Council of Economic Advisors, said the U.S. may not see employment reach pre-recession levels. That's the employment levels we had, say, in 2005 and 6, until 2023. She is speaking of your jobs, if not your jobs, your next-door neighbors, your cousins, your roommates. I could go on. If a system, I discuss payment, income, and we don't have time to discuss all this. I was discussing what stagnation comes, 2 paragraphs on what causes inflation. Both of them are relevant. Likelihood, very real, something called stagflation is right around the corner in your early working lives. Frightening, we could go on at great length, but this is designed. You've had too much sun, too much swimming, too much barbecue. It's designed to bring you back to reality. We're limited time. Those are self-evident denial. Now a very quick one, curious denial. I'm going to speak in telegrams and be brief. My wife thinks I'm rambling on. This curious denial is the total lack of discussion in the American Jewish community of the ramifications of a 2-state versus 1-state solution for Israel. The American Jewish community is generally considered pretty astute, number one. They think kindly of Israel, number two. They have blind faith in whatever the Israelis want, give it to them. They are totally oblivious of domestic Israeli politics or the political pressures. They have no talk about what happens if a Netanyahu government, or even worse, his foreign minister, Lieberman, get everything they want. Someone should quote to them the George Bernard Shaw comment, "Be careful what you wish for, because you may get it." If Israel makes a 2-state solution impossible, if they make a 2-state, the Palestinian state, not viable, they will end up with 1 state. That 1 state demographically will be Muslim. Where is there any discussion of the degree to which it's in Israel's best interest to have a Palestinian state economically, socially, and politically stable and viable? It's not in Israel's best interest to have a Somalia or a Yemen next door. It's not in Israel's best interest to have the Palestinians say, "Okay, Buster, you've won. Take the whole goddamn country. We are now Israelis." The population, 1 man, 1 vote, sometime in the 21st century, and Israel is a Muslim state. There is 0 discussion of this topic among this very savvy group. I'm pressed for time, and my Jiminy Cricket there is the other interesting question of denial and it's self-destructive. is the fact that we have increasingly two black worlds in the United States. We have the black world of those who get education, careers in the mainstream, and are thriving in the mainstream, as opposed to those who maintain a nihilistic, self-destructive, inner city, negative counterculture in the inner city. Now, this is something, these two worlds, we don't discuss. I'll try to read this briefly. We have black astronauts and astrophysicists, college presidents and billionaires. Black, these are blacks. Black astronauts and astrophysicists, college presidents and billionaires, admirals and generals, CEOs of the Fortune 500 and Pulitzer Prize authors, multimillionaire athletes and leading entertainment celebrities, distinguished intellectuals, innovative entrepreneurs, world-class, up there, it goes on, increasing number of black mayors, governors, congressmen, cabinet officers, and annual sales of minority-owned businesses grew to $1 trillion in 2007, growing at a rate of 10%. These are every relevant public opinion poll portrays huge intergenerational positive changes in mindset from old to young among whites and blacks about integration, employment, racial intermarriage. Those blacks who are educated, highly motivated, and who join the mainstream of American life, which is now possible, are doing as well as, in many cases, as their comparable whites and Asians and Latinos counterparts, and they will thrive. The other side of the coin, we know that 72% of all black births today are to unmarried mothers. We know that children from such fatherless homes commit 63% of all suicides, 90% of all homeless and runaway children, 80% of rapists, 71% of all high school dropouts. We know what is happening. We know that blacks are 24% of New York's population, and we're told that blacks commit 68% of the crimes. That's not Colin Powell. That's not Dick Parsons. Those are the kids in the inner city who are disproportionately school dropouts. So you have this real fact of life that no one is talking about. We know that the levels of achievement relate to education. The percentage of blacks in prisons is astronomical, not among college graduates. Black college graduates have prison rates roughly comparable to that of other college graduates. We know that a black astronaut, that a black physicist or chemist today, graduating from school today, married to another black scientist, female, will have a projected lifetime income comparable to his white counterpart. That education is the true civil rights issue in America today. Everything relates to mindset, to education, and no one talks about this because the black demagogues, the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons and the Louis Farrakhan's are telling these kids a message that's counterproductive. It's telling them that the world is only black and white, never mind Asian, never mind Hispanic. The Al Sharpton or the Jesse Jackson message to these kids is, A, the world is black and white. The whites have everything. They hate you. You are black. You can't win. What the inner city kid hears is, why try? And it's heartbreaking. Those are the kids with their baseball caps backward, with their belts down around below their waist, who swagger and go. And they don't understand that by dropping out of school at the colossal rates they are, at being semi-literate in an increasingly high-tech society, they are condemning themselves to lives of despair. And because of political correctness, which is another factor in our failure to have open and free and frank discussions, because of political correctness, which is one of these factors, these problems are not receiving the discussion, the analysis, the informed give and take they should receive. I could go on each of these things. Our ecological problems are going undiscussed. Our reliance on fossil fuels, which cannot continue indefinitely, going undiscussed. These are samples. Very quickly, because my Jiminy Cricket is telling me I'm overrunning my time, the question is a simple one. What should be done? Two important first steps. Number one, we must remember the dictum of Daniel Patrick Moynihan, a good friend of many of us and my hero. He said, quote, this is the Moynihan dictum, anyone can have his own opinion. We're each entitled to his own opinion, but not his own facts. Moynihan's dictum was, look at the facts and agree on the facts. Once you have a clear reading of the facts, then you're free to go on as you wish. The second point, let us get away from ad hominem reasoning. That means reasoning from the person. Just because I find Noam Chomsky repellent, that does not mean that everything Noam Chomsky says is automatically wrong. Just because I like Albert Schweitzer, that does not mean that everything Albert Schweitzer automatically says is automatically correct. We must learn, number one, to look at the facts. Number two, we must learn to look calmly and dispassionately above all, and this I think is a fact of American life. We tend to read, to hear, to listen to those who agree with us. We never tend to read or look or listen to those with whom we disagree. We are losing the ability to deal calmly and rationally with opposing views. And my bad news is to you all, unless we change, there's going to be a very painful series of ramifications. I hope I did not depress you. My goal was to provoke your thinking. Thank you. Did I come within the time? Yes.